the director of Workers' Rights Clinic for the University of Michigan Law School. Rachael, thank you very much for joining us again in the MegaCast. Good to have
Yeah,
you
thanks
with
for
us.
having me.
Man, I could do this whole show with you. It was so informative when you were on last. And I just want to remind people that you are an amazing advocate for those that are unemployed and seeking their unemployment compensation benefits in the state of Michigan. Why don't you tell people yourself what you do?
Yeah, so we are a free law clinic. We work with it's me and one other attorney, and we basically the goal of what we do is to help our law students get some real hands-on experience on some legal work. And we do that through primarily unemployment insurance claims, as well as some other offshoot issues that happens that relate to workers' rights. And so we have students that will be primarily the people handling your case. And we, myself and the other faculty attorney, we are the direct supervisors of those cases to make sure that they go the right way.
So, Rachael, since we've talked, we've found a lot of other people that are facing what so many people here in Michigan. They never received their unemployment compensation checks from the very beginning of this whole crisis. They're one of the millions of unemployed in Michigan and have unfortunately suffered as a UIA, the Unemployment Insurance Agency here in the state of Michigan, has been overwhelmed with claims, or they were somebody who had been receiving their unemployment check and then it got turned off as they closed the spigot at the state of Michigan due to fraud in the system. And the state elected to, rather than take that burden on themselves, nicely hand that back over to unemployed people in the state of Michigan. I jest. And I know you're running into exactly the same kind of thing. You must be overwhelmed with people needing help.
Yeah, we are getting a lot of calls, and we are, we're happy to help as much as we can. There are some issues that we can help with directly, and there are other issues that the agency really does need to resolve in the meantime. But if people are really experiencing that they haven't been paid at all this whole time, then they should contact me or contact the clinic, is really what I mean, to contact the clinic. And then also contact your representative. Those are the agency's priorities to make sure that they can get back, going back to the start of when coronavirus really affected our economy. And they are the priority.
Do you have any idea how many people are like Lauren Kinnison, who we've had here on the show, that have not seen a penny during this entire crisis? Any way
I
to
read
assess how many?
I read the report of what the agency said. It's about 130 some thousand people that still haven't received anything. But there's still almost 2 million people have been paid. So it's a very small percentage of the great percentage that are unemployed right now. But that's of little consequence to the people that haven't been paid yet. They need that money in order to continue to pay their bills, to have a house, to have their food, and do all of that stuff that they need in order to live.
So you take the 130,000 people that likely have not seen a penny, and that's a scary number here in the state. And then you add to that maybe another 400,000 people who were receiving their money, and at least some of those are not any longer as the state of Michigan fights back unemployment fraud.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that it's not fraud. It's unemployment. It's imposter claims that are causing fraud. There's two different types of fraud in the system. One are claimants lying to get benefits, which is very, very rare. And then there's this imposter claim where it's somebody else filing and stealing somebody's identity. And so those are two different things. And I think it's important to separate them because it can confuse
Well,
what is actually happening in the system.
I'm clear, but the audience might not be. So
Right.
it's very astute of you to point that out. I appreciate it. So, okay, I'm going to ask you an opinion. You might not be able to give it to me. Do
Sure.
you think it is fair that the state of Michigan puts the burden on this fraud that is happening to the unemployment system on unemployed people in the state by turning off their unemployment checks so they figure this thing out?
Is it fair? No, but really there's nothing about the way that this state has run its unemployment system that's fair for going back decades. It's always on the claimant to do everything. It's on the claimant to prove eligibility at every turn. The MIDA system that the state has in place, that's the system that processes all these claims. That system was put in place in 2013, and it presumes that the claimant is ineligible at every possible turn. That's why there's all these flags. If you've seen a flag like additional claim required or non-monetary eligibility, or stop payment indicator, those are all Midas flags. And it flags every possible issue that it can, and it requires a human to go in. Before it actually, humans didn't go in. It would just deny you. A computer would deny you, and a human wouldn't look at it. But that didn't go well because it's over-programmed to put these flags in. And now a human does review it, but when you have 2 million people that are applying all at once, a human having to go back and review each one of these claims is daunting. Instead, we should have a system that's programmed well that actually catches what it needs to catch rather than any possible issue that may or may not actually be an issue.
Rachael Kohl, Director of Workers' Rights Clinic for the University of Michigan Law School, joining us here in the MegaCast. Rachel, we don't have a lot of time today, and I appreciate every time you open your mouth, it's like a headline quote, because this stuff is so distressing, and you just, you're helping us get a transparent look inside the UIA. When you said that they just automatically assumed that your claim's no good. I mean, that's obviously hard to hear. Does your agency, if you will, does the University of Michigan Law School and the Workers' Rights Clinic, have you ever engaged in litigation on behalf of anyone you've been helping or otherwise?
So I came from a law firm that has an active class action lawsuit against the agency's false fraud scandal arising from Midas, their computer system, wrongfully flagging tens of thousands of people with fraud. And now remember, this is fraud in the sense of like claimants saying that they were lying to get benefits, and they were wrong 93% of the time in the amount of people that they charge with fraud, not with the current issues of today's fraud, which is imposter claims. So as far as the lawsuits that we file, we primarily help people on an individual capacity. So we have a lot of different cases that are throughout the administrative courts, and as well as Michigan Circuit Courts, the Court of Appeals, and the Michigan Supreme Court as well.
Rachel, you were kind enough to tell me when we got off the air last time that you know the director of the agency, of the UIA, and he actually came from your program. Is that correct? Is that how you do him?
Yeah, so Steve Gray is a lifelong claimant advocate, and he spent his whole career working, and actually he founded the program that I now direct. He founded it as a nonprofit because he knows that there are exactly what you said, that the agency presumes essentially guilt, that you don't merit the claim that you're filing, and it's supposed to be a layman's system, and it's really not. It's not conducive for a layman, a regular person off the street, to know what to do with these claims. And so he founded the nonprofit, and then and he's fought for thousands of people on an individual capacity.
So we have the right person at the UIA. Is it possible that the problem is too big even for Steve right now?
Well, the problem is stemming from a lot more than just the 2 million people filing for claims right now. The problem is much bigger. It's not only the fact that there are 2 million people, but we have this computer system that we've never checked. We've never had a public review. We've never had other experts look in to make sure that it's flagging the right people. And we know that it was at least wrong, and with how many people it wrongly charged with fraud at a 93% error rate. I'd like to see some data about how well it's actually flagging people and how many times the agency has to overturn itself based on the Midas's flags that it does, like the non-monetary eligibility flag, the additional claim required flag. How many of those flags actually should be overturned? How many are overprogrammed? I see plenty on a day-to-day basis that I think were overprogrammed, but we don't have any data to show that. So Steve walked into a computer system that was designed in 2013 that was overcalibrated to deny benefits, and that is really forcing claimants to prove their eligibility at every turn. And also, Michigan is one of the most restrictive laws on unemployment out of the entire country. There's really only a few other states that are more restrictive than Michigan, but Michigan is legitimately one of the most restrictive states on who they actually give unemployment benefits to.
All right, well, that's
not everything is the 2 million people that are applying all at once. It's a perfect storm.
Rachel, I appreciate you sharing all that with us. We got to go in a minute. I had Representative Jim Ellison, who is the state rep of Lauren Kinnison, who we've been working with. So I got them connected today, and it was really good to hear from Jim. And, he said that he's frustrated. He feels that virtually all of his constituent work is tied up into this, and that he's doing the work, and he and other state reps are doing the work of the UIA. And quite frankly, it sounds like he's getting kind of tired of that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they are, and I'm sure that we're getting a lot of extra calls that we normally don't get, and that has to do, again, with all the different issues this is not a one issue problem.
Would it help, Rachel, if the UIA opened up their offices?
See, I don't actually know if it would, because the way that would work then is that they would have to put some type of rules and regulation on that, and we know that people don't really follow the rules. The UIA set up a program for people to call based on their last name, so that they could try to put the call volumes down on certain days, and they could actually get through to people, and no one listened. People still continue to call hundreds of times a day into the UIA, even though their last name isn't part of that day. And it's because they're desperate for their money, and they should be getting their money. But at the same time, if the UIA opens up all of their offices, that's going to make whoever can get to the office their priority, rather than the people that haven't been paid this whole time. And I think that that's going to create some different issues. It's going to take people off the phone, so there's going to be even fewer people answering the phones. And it's a double-edged sword, I think, a little bit. I think you might be able to get some more people in that would get their claims resolved, but then there's also going to be fewer people that can get through on the phones, and you can't keep the same priority. So again, they're in a lose-lose situation right now.
That's why I'm talking about it. That's why I'm talking about it every day. At the very least, we're going to let people know that they're in a lose-lose situation, and maybe sometime before we're done, they'll be in a lose-win situation. I've seen significant media stories over the past couple of weeks. We're beginning to see this bubble up. It wasn't reported at all. Big headlines statewide and M Live. I've seen some other reporting on it. We're going to continue to do our part here. Rachael Kohl, thank you very much.